love what you do, right? If as an entrepreneur, you look for an escape from work, you're doing the wrong thing.
Hi everyone, Namaste. This is Jarno Anjali Kochar. Welcome back to my channel Tookwings blog by Jarno Anjali Kochar. तो आज आ गया है फ्राइडे और आज का फ्राइडे बहुत स्पेशल है क्योंकि आज हमारा पहला पॉडकास्ट आप लोगों के सामने आने वाला है। तो हमने अपना पहला पॉडकास्ट शूट किया हमने मिस्टर अमित रेलन के साथ। ही इज द डायरेक्टर ऑफ वूट फैक्टर। इट इज एन इवेंट कंपनी और बहुत सारी इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें आपको जानने को मिलेंगी इस इवेंट कंपनी के बारे में, वूट फैक्टर के बारे में। आई मीन व्हाट डज दिस वर्ड मीन्स, ये जानने को मिलेगा आपको इस पॉडकास्ट के थ्रू। एंड नॉट जस्ट दैट, इस पॉडकास्ट के थ्रू आपको बहुत प्यारी प्यारी स्टोरीज, बहुत प्यारे प्यारे लेसन्स मिलने वाले हैं। आई थिंक मेरे लिए तो ये बहुत ही रेलिवेंट एक कॉन्वर्सेशन रहा है और मुझे लगता है कि ये सभी के लिए जो भी अपनी जर्नी एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में स्टार्ट करने जा रहे हैं, अपने आप को ब्रांड की तरह शोकेस करना चाहते हैं या ब्रांड बिल्ड कर रहे हैं, तो इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ टीम से लेकर के इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ फेलियर से लेकर के ट्रैवलिंग और वर्ड ऑफ माउथ के इम्पोर्टेंस से लेकर एंड लग्जरी इवेंट, दैट इज बिकॉज वूट फैक्टर इज इन द इवेंट स्पेस, वहां हमने डाइव डीप किया है। एंड वर्ल्ड एनवायरमेंट डे, सस्टेनेबिलिटी, एंड आई टेल यू व्हाट, ये सारी चीजें तो है ही, बट अदर देन दैट द डायरेक्टर मिस्टर अमित रेलन, he really opened up to us एंड उन्होंने बहुत प्यारी प्यारी स्टोरीज और एग्जाम्पल्स के थ्रू बहुत प्यारी सी कॉन्वर्जेशन रही थी। मुझे तो बहुत मजा आया एंड आई होप आप लोगों को भी देख करके बहुत कुछ एक तो सीखने को मिलेगा। और फ्राइडे है, आपको आपको मतलब ऐसे बहुत लाइट भी फील होगा ये कॉन्वर्जेशन सुनने के बाद। तो आई एम जस्ट नॉट गोइंग टू कीप टॉकिंग क्योंकि बात अब है पॉडकास्ट की, तो बस शुरू करते हैं जी।
Hi Amit, welcome to Kahaniyaan by Tookwings blog. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you so much for having me.
So we are so excited to have you here today, and we will be talking about a lot of interesting concepts that is that are relevant for me, I guess, and that are relevant for anyone who is starting off with a venture, who wants to build their own brand. And today there is this new concept of building yourself as a brand, that
Absolutely.
personal branding. Right, so we'll dive into all that, but जैसे अभी हम बात भी कर रहे थे कि Kahaniyaan is the soul of Tookwings blog. So we encourage our guests to always start the podcast with one story that is apart from what brand you're building, apart from what work you're doing, but one story that you would like to share with the audiences, and that can be anything, but yeah, one story that makes you.
That makes me. Well, I think I graduated from this beautiful university we all graduate called life. And that's been the soul of my being in terms of what I believe in, what I do at work, how we think within the organization. But all of that actually stems from, where you start off. I've been working for my God, I've been working for almost 25, 26 years now. मेरी त्वचा से मेरी उम्र का पता नहीं चलता, but that is the reality. And I think I was made by life. I lost my father at the age of 10, and that made growing up a little bit of a struggle in terms of not having that backbone to kind of go back and find validation or find direction in what one wanted to do. But that in a way was also a great push because I was kind of in a universe where I could do I could learn my lessons myself. I could try a lot of things. So I started with recruitments, moved into sales, moved into account management. But very early in my life, realized that I was good at relationship building. I was good at articulating what I thought. I had a free mind of my own, so I could make up my own mind what's good, bad, ugly, right? And I think that stemmed in making who I am today, or like I keep saying, I'm an entertainer for a living, but so am I a student for a living. So that's the entire mind or the psychology behind Amit Relan in a certain sense. And the story continues as we keep building this current brand, which we call Woot Factor, or the new brands that we are working on. but more interestingly, we make people, right? So when you mentor, the next generation, when you mentor people who kind of trust you and join your team, it's a very interesting piece because everything is a story that's happened with us in our lives. वो कहते हैं ना, माँ बाप कहते थे बचपन में select your friends very carefully, संगत का असर होता है and all of that. तो वो सारी चीजें we've actually walked the path and kind of learned that how right they were in a certain sense. And we articulate it in a more educated fashion today. That's the only difference.
Right, right. So I was also, reading that you started your career very early on, like at the age of 19, if I was, or 17, if I'm
17
not
and a half.
wrong. There. 17
17 and
and
a half. I hope my first employer doesn't get a call. But yeah,
a half. How did you start at that early age, and how was that like?
well, very interesting actually. उस जमाने में NIIT करके बहुत चलता था. And I had a freelance job with NIIT as I used to go for classes. I used to sell these MS Office courses to doctors. So literally going door to door and doing that piece. And one such day, I actually went to a recruitment firm where I was pitching. It belonged to somebody I knew in a common sense with my very close friend. And my communication skills lent me into the director of that company actually, having a mangola with me. We were having this at the cafeteria. And he said, Amit, why are you doing this piece? I said, just want to work because, just going to college and coming back is, I have time on my hand. So I'm doing this out of kicks, get to learn something more practically. So he offered me my first job, which was a full-time job in a company called Abyss and Horizon Consulting, and I owe them a lot. My first 2.5 years were with them. It was a recruitment firm. I don't even remember the year right now, but I would say think it was 99 or 2000. Um, and that time, things like SAP and Oracle and Java were just coming up, and uh, IT hiring was in a big, big way, picking up within the industry. So I actually joined as a recruiter where I was calling HR people saying, I can help you in recruiting this skill set and going on a Naukri or a Monster and these kind of sites, interviewing candidates and placing them. But the entire mindset was not money at that point of time. It wasn't money which was ever the requirement, but it was more a time of how do I kill time? What better can I learn, or what kind of people I can surround myself with, which probably organically happened. It sounds very intelligent right now. At 80, at 17, 18, you're not as intelligent to make these right decisions. But I went with the flow and things kind of fell in place. Worked with these guys for 2.5 years. My mentor there, Mr. Shailendra Puri, said something very beautiful. He said, first couple of years, 2, 3 years, you should just give in to people you look up to, for them to, drive course and take you through various walks of life. And that education will kind of help you in the longer term. So that was the mindset that I went with, and something that I try to inculcate in kids who kind of trust us by joining my company today as well.
Right. No, I totally agree with you on that. So, I mean, the other day I was having this conversation with one of my juniors. So, she was like that, when I'm starting off, how much money should I think of in media? We were talking about media, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I mean, don't think about money when you're starting off. Just if you're passionate about it, just go for it, right? I think that is the way to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think the passion points are different for everybody, and there are a lot of people who figure it out. We keep saying आजकल के बच्चों को already पता है उनको बनना क्या है. But at the same time, I think that much amount of population is the exact opposite, where the plethora of choices leaves them completely disillusioned. And look, I'm saying our time, but I'm at my time in generally, I'm an 80s kid. We had these three pieces, right? Science, commerce, art. And then, if you wanted to be a doctor or a certain piece, then you needed to know. They're very limited. Nowadays, when a kid comes to me and he's actually presenting a CV to me, half the courses even I don't identify with. Right? I don't know what do you teach within that course. They become so refined and so specific. But at the same time, the routes are so many that the choices actually, you leave you more confused. in a certain sense, right? You go to an ice cream parlor, you got 31 flavors, you'll end up trying 7. At the same time, when you had only those Amul ice creams with 5 flavors, you knew what was your favorite. So it's
Right.
as simple
So
as that.
true.
So life was far more simpler
Hmm.
back then. But yes, today's kids are also bright at the same time. They
Hmm.
identify their strengths far too easily and much better because the exposure is there, right? I only have a problem with the ones who seek validation from social media and not their surroundings. That's the
Hmm.
only.
Now, coming to another important discussion that we are going to have is about entrepreneurship. And, this shift of being a full-time employee to being an entrepreneur, or be it like someone like me who was full-time, then freelancer, and then an entrepreneur. What are your thoughts on this shift from full-time to entrepreneurship?
Well, to me, of course, as part of my story, I jumped into this role at the age of 28. So it was quite some time back. And, we've been running the organization now for 14 and a half years. It's me and my partner, Smita Jadhav. And where we started, of course, to me, it came more as a fact of introspecting as to what I was good at and what I liked doing, right? Of course, when you are stable and when things have gone your way, it's easier to be preachy. But back then also, we were on the edge whether it will work out or it will not work out. The reason we jumped into it was because we knew that, okay, age was on our side. We could afford to take a risk. And it, things kind of fell in place. But if you look at, when should one come into it or what prompted me to, it was clearly my passion of what I like doing, right? As an individual, I loved entertaining people. I loved hosting parties at home. And when somebody came to my house, either there was a theme party I was hosting or there was gamification that I was doing. Also, I think as a part of my bloodline, my father was an entertainer. He was a doctor, but he ended up acting in a few movies. He hosted stage shows. So I saw him do that and,
Hmm.
kind of probably picked up from there. I don't know. That's what my mother keeps saying. But that probably came naturally. And that to me became a profession where you kind of said, okay, if I want to engage with corporates, which I understand well because I worked in corporates for about 11, 12 years, I knew the HR of the organization struggles so much to keep the employees entertained. So can I come up with entertainment platforms where a corporate can simply sign up with me and I can make their life easier? That was the two-line problem statement in my head that I was solving by starting a company that didn't have a name. And then Smita came up with the term WOOT, and we added WOOT factor to it. And, the rest is history, as they say. But the journey started back in 2009 with this little problem statement that I identified. And then we said we'll do it for about 6 months. If it works out, let's see how the waters kind of react to this. And, they reacted quite decently. So here we are.
Right, right. So, in your opinion, what are the 5 key things that, someone who is starting off with their company or a brand should have in them? I mean, if you have, if you share, like, any
Yeah.
3 or 5 things.
Well, I definitely think a soul, right? Most people and most kids right now with India in this wave of startups actually start a company to sell the company. And that to me is a little strange because we are emotional beings. Indians are emotional beings, right? We need a purpose for friendships, for relationships, for travel. We always look for a purpose, right? So a soul and a purpose is very, very important. वो companies पहले करती थी ना mission statement, vision statement,
Mm.
great from a business point of view. But if an entrepreneur can actually answer that himself, uh, without fancy terminologies, but as to why you are doing something that you're wanting to do, whether it's in the field of technology, in the field of digitization. There are so many social media companies coming up. But what differentiates you? What's the story that you're telling? Why do you exist? That's important. So that probably covers the first 2 points. I think culture, uh, you know, we in Woot Factor have this one word culture, which basically we put in bold inverted commas and we say Ubuntu. Have you heard of this term?
I think, I'm not sure.
No wise. It's a
Mm,
South African origin. Nelson Mandela introduced it to the world.
mm,
And Ubuntu means I am cause we are, right? So we follow this principle come to my clients. We follow this principle for our employees. We
mm,
follow this principle for all our partners. And not just from today. We've been following it for, a certain time frame, almost about 5, 6 years now.
mm,
But we've kind of identified that as our culture. That's a selfless kind of a culture that we want to inculcate. We want to tell people that, you know, this is my job profile, ये मेरा काम नहीं है. तो आप ना नहीं बोल सकते because कोई अगर आपसे वो कहने बोल रहा है, so somebody
mm,
reaching out to you and somebody believes in you that you can help them. So,
mm,
how can you make that possible for him?
mm,
Similar cases with the client, right? When they're investing in you, when they're spending money on you, there is a certain reason why they're doing that. Identify that and help them achieve that. And similar cases with a partner, right? He is standing those nights, days, trying to make your vision come to life. So you need to be empathetic towards them and treat them equally. So the culture kind of defines a very, very strong role of an entrepreneur because if you can identify a culture, marry it to your purpose of what you want to do, you know, I think more than half your battle is won because there is clarity in what you're doing. Clarity, and that brings
right.
longevity, right?
Mm,
Besides this, I think the kind of people that you work with, the kind of people you hire should be better than you, right? I,
mm,
I definitely feel that way. People should not feel competed by their own employees or
mm,
their partner, right?
mm.
Most of the time, वो दो दोस्त, that terminology, दो दोस्त साथ में business नहीं कर सकते.
Right.
It is because both think alike, both talk alike, both
Mm,
feel alike, right? But
mm,
the minute you can get somebody complimenting, and then they say
mm,
opposites attract, right?
mm,
So all these terminologies with these gray-haired people are actually pretty true in a certain sense. And I think finally, for running a business, you need to introspect. You need to question yourself better. Listen to people when they're giving feedback. So analyze that better. The good feedback, retain it with you. The bad feedback, kind of let it go. Some things are only momentary. But for me, if you ask me as an entrepreneur, clarity, all of what I'm saying is
mm,
actually buckled into this one term called clarity, right?
mm.
And if you can have that as a part before you start a business, then you will tick the right boxes and success will follow. Today or tomorrow, you will be accepted by your listeners and your target audience.
So when we talk about success and when we talk about entrepreneurship or any other field for that matter, with success comes, failures as well. So how important do you think it is to fail and then rise, because sometimes people fail in their endeavor and then just give up. So
Yeah.
how do you think that it is important to, value those failures and then rise again?
Well, we don't have a choice, right, Anjali, because you'll not have success all the time, right? Even when today we run a 14-and-a-half-year-old company, it's not like everything we've done has hit the, ball out of the park. We've
Mm,
had our fair shares of failures as well. We lose a lot of pitches as well. We don't win everything that you pitch, practically it's not possible. I think age brings in a lot of maturity to kind of handle these kind of pieces. I think your actual real life scenarios bring in a lot of maturity as to, a lot of people have OCD. So how you behave during those times, how you kind of lap up to dealing with situations on a personal side also reflect on your professional side. But the one part which I would kind of genuinely believe in is it is those moments that make you, right? It's not the success that actually defines you. It's actually, Muhammad Ali said it, and so many people say it. It's, how not how you fall, it's how you rise, and beautiful statements in life to motivate, right? But the reality in life is we today have started taking, started following terminologies like, mental health, work-life balance, and these are all true. I'm not, demeaning any of it, but I just feel we latch on to it pretty quickly, right? The 80s, our generation before that, actually saw a lot more struggle. So we lapped up failure a little better. We handled it a little better. Today, I think, you put on 5 kgs and you're hitting a dietitian. It's literally it's become as simple as that. There are so many glorified solutions out there that you kind of start looking for excuses, and failure becomes kind of a pause in your growth. If you ask me, I think if you failed, it's a fantastic thing. Sit back, couple of days, document what went wrong, analyze it, introspect about it, uh, and fantastic. Don't make the mistake again, right? It's as simple as that. Or maybe what you were doing was not, correct, and that is the reason why you failed. So just change course a little bit rather than completely changing the company that you were starting, the endeavor that you were starting, or the job that you took over. Maybe the manager that you were working with wasn't empathetic enough or wasn't reciprocating, right? Maybe, something that you were doing, let's say writing, you're great at storytelling, but you're not great at documenting it. So there could be very small fixes that you realize you didn't enjoy doing. If you're doing something that you enjoy doing, doesn't matter if you fail, continue doing it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, right?
Right. So coming back to WOOT factor, so this name is really, unique, and it also resonates with X factor. So, I mean, where does that come from, the name?
Okay. Well, I need to, and I always credit Smita for the name in one sense. Woot as a terminology is actually a gaming slang. So in Counter-Strike, which is a very popular game, and I think, I don't know if it's still around, but if you conquered your opponents in a certain sector, you said, we own the other team.
Oh,
That is a slang for Woot. So that's the abbreviation, right? Or in a treasure hunt, when you found the treasure as a team together, the war cry was wow, loot. So when you put that together, that formed Woot. So it was a war cry for success. It was a war cry for joy, right? And factor was just that we bring it to your table. So as an event company, as an experiential agency, we wanted to create these moments of Woot for people, right? So if you achieve targets, you're going out there to celebrate, right? You don't celebrate anything else. You celebrate success. Now, how heroic can we make you feel there? Or as an employee of a company, how happy we can make you feel within that environment is exactly what WOOT factor is. So we live the name day in and day out.
That's great. And do you have as we talk about stories all the time, so do you have a particular story when, you were able to make an event like really good or stand out? Any particular story that is, top of your head?
Well, quite a few. I think we've been blessed to have a lot of opportunities to actually create such moments. But I think some moments kind of stay back with you, right? So one such moment was this, for the #1 private sector bank in the country. We conduct the largest sports employee engagement platform for their HR team. And we've been doing that for over the last 10 to 12 years now. But there was this moment where there was this, so it's a multi-sport discipline where almost 35, 42 cities take part, and the top gold medalists fly down to Mumbai to compete in a national finals. So it's a huge property. It's called Josh Unlimited under a banner. And there was this teller, a teller in a bank is the one जिसके पास आप जाके cash लेते हो. आप अपनी passbook देते हो, he stamps your passbook and he actually gives you cash. So that's the role of a teller. And literally in a bank of a size of 1 lakh odd employees, very few people will know that guy, right? But he'd once come down, and there was a finale that happened in Mumbai, and he landed up winning the 100 meters athletics run. And once he was rewarded, he came to us, my team in the backstage, and hugged each one of us and actually thanked for saying that, you know what, today, the MD of the company, the executive director of the company know my name. And, I never thought that I would get to share the stage with them. But we landed up creating that entire platform, created that entire experience. And this is just one such story from 12 years. I would probably have 1,200 such stories. But this one
That's
story
right.
stayed with me because
Hmm.
that gentleman is still a friend. He's moved companies. But whenever I'm in Chandigarh, he'll come down and he'll still
Hmm.
greet us and he'll still take us out for lunch and,
Hmm.
still share a good laugh. But those are the kind of moments that you kind of relish or kind of live for, right? Of course,
Right. Hmm.
we've ended
Hmm.
up creating, you worked with the biggest of celebrities and created
Hmm.
those moments. But it's these human moments that actually bring a larger smile on your face.
No, completely. I completely, get it. So, my grandfather, he was a, principal of government school, and he used to say that हमने पैसा नहीं कमाया है, हमने इज्जत कमाई है. तो जब कभी भी मेरी लाइफ में भी कुछ ऐसे मोमेंट्स होते हैं ना, दोज आर वेरी ह्यूमनली एंड लाइक कि अगर कोई आकर के मुझे बोल दे रहा है कि इस स्टोरी की वजह से या इस एक्सपीरियंस की वजह से आई फेल्ट रियली नाइस. तो आई एम लाइक द मोस्ट हैप्पीस्ट पर्सन. लाइक I work for, of course, we all are working for, our own, we all have our own goals in life. But
Yeah,
जैसे आपने अभी बोला कि वो छोटी छोटी जो humanly moments and जो stories हैं, that is what, make
बिल्कुल,
last.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल.
Right. So, coming to another relevant thing, that is personal branding. I mean, as an influencer or as someone, for example, there was this person who came to me as well, he is an influencer in the space already, in the Instagram space already, but he wants to create his brand as someone who is also, who is also well educated and in the finance space. So what are your thoughts on personal branding? I mean, can you be one person who is, someone very energetic and maybe eventful on Instagram, but that another person as well who talks about finance and digital marketing and stuff like that? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Interesting question.
Hmm.
I think I'm also learning, personal branding as I keep living day in and day out because with the ever evolving market, you really don't know what works or what doesn't.
Hmm.
I think very difficult to put your finger that there is this
Hmm.
solution. I would probably just give you my take on it. I don't know whether it's a right take or wrong take
Yeah.
and whether your listeners will agree or disagree.
Hmm.
But I just feel you need to be natural,
Hmm.
right? When you put on, a role that
Hmm.
suits actors on screen, but even they can only live it for 2 hours or 3 hours,
Right.
right? You see a movie which goes on for 3.5 hours and you say it was too
Hmm.
long, didn't connect with
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
But the same time, your attention span is 2 hours, 2.5 hours. You say this movie worked because the
Hmm.
character could convince you for that longer.
Right.
So even on social media or when you're talking about personal branding, even in spaces of corporate, right?
Hmm.
If what you are is what you are doing will naturally stick longer
Hmm.
than you trying or pretending to be someone. So
Hmm.
I think if this ex-influencer who's looking to be a finance expert, if that comes naturally to him, fantastic,
Hmm.
then he should do that. But not try to be funny if he's not funny.
Hmm.
As simple as that. You can't become a stand-up comedian,
Hmm.
right? You can't train to be a stand-up comedian, is what I'm trying to say. There's got to be a natural self that you bring on the stage, right? So
Hmm.
you see that some of the top stand-up comedians actually don't care how they dress
Hmm.
because it's their content that wins people over. People are
Hmm.
not taking pictures of them at the airport, right?
Hmm.
So that fits in that scheme of things.
Hmm.
So I think just be your natural self. In terms of personal branding, I would also say persistence is very, very important.
Hmm.
People expect success like this.
Yeah.
I started my journey, and why this not happened in 3 months, or this didn't
Hmm.
happen in 6 months. Let's try something new.
Hmm.
This doesn't work. Persistence will work, right?
Right.
So
Hmm.
that's my two takes on the space of personal branding. But like I said, I'm still learning myself. I'm not really arrived from any part of the world,
Hmm.
right? We
Hmm.
within our fraternity, within our clients, are consistently doing the same thing, saying the same thing. We have this newsletter that we call WOOT Times, which is our quarterly newsletter, and this is in its 27th or 28th edition. So imagine how many years we've been running that entire newsletter, telling our
Hmm.
clients every 3 months what we are doing, right?
Hmm.
So we are trying to brand ourselves accordingly. And, we are positioning ourselves as individuals in that same space. But persistence is the key, right?
Mm.
So today a client does tell me, why was I not a part of the newsletter? Can I please know? You didn't feature my article there. But it hardly goes to 200 odd contacts, people whom we know. But people have found relevance in the content that we are doing. So persistence is the key. Nobody asked me in the first 5 or 10 editions. 27,
Right.
20 edition, yes, people started asking.
Right, right. Wonderful. And when we're talking about entrepreneurship, brands, and everything, what are the challenges according to you, that would come in the way for anyone who is starting up with a brand or, want to be an entrepreneur in this space?
Well, look, challenges are aplenty, and I would probably say that um, we've gone through waves of ups and downs, and we've learned that, and we've survived the pandemic at the same time as well. So I don't think there can be a bigger challenge than that, because that's a force majeure situation which you really couldn't control. But we needed to kind of be, quite aware of our surroundings, of our people. We knew this will end someday. So how would life view us if we were to just tell our entire team, thank you very much, and kind of just sustain ourselves. So as a company, we kind of retain each and every employee of us, including my driver, my peon, everybody, right? So I think as an entrepreneur, you will come through lots of unforeseen challenges. So I think the beauty is to smile in the face of that. The beauty is to kind of, like I told you, it's a book of life, right? You're getting a chance to learn and experiment with something that you learned prior, or learn something new, or try something all the way new. Like today, our biggest challenge is not running a business, but is, let's call it, retaining people, hiring people, trying to look for the right kind of fitment of people who fit our culture, because it just doesn't come naturally, right? Not everybody is just going to seep in and blend into your culture. So for us, we've become more of HR people rather than business people, or a salesperson, or an account manager, because the other things have kind of fallen in place. But there are different phases of entrepreneurship that will lend you challenge. Like in the start, it's your own identity, it's who you are, why you're doing it, that's the purpose, and being able to communicate that. We were fortunate, probably we started at a time where 2009, the markets were at a low. I saw that as a great opportunity, because you got that much more time to build up. So as the market grew in 2011 and then kicked off, we were there at the right place, because we had the first 1 or 2 years to figure out the rough edges. So that was a good time. So when the markets are bad, it's a great time to start. That's one tip I'd give anybody. Um, Other challenges that you'll of course face is uh, building a team that actually believes in your vision.
Yeah.
Right? Very, very important, because this team is not just the people who work with you, it's people who work for you, like your vendors, external suppliers, and also your clients. So if a client just comes to you for one-off project, then you're not setting up a relationship. So for us, we are a team, we are a 50 plus team today, but we do not have a single salesperson in the company. And we've not had a single salesperson in 14 years in the company, right? Because for us, every experience, every client experience, every client interaction is an opportunity to open a door for the next one. So relationships matter, right? And that's where we set our pillars. But every company has their own ideologies, their own pace, right? We are a very, very, I would probably say, reserved, very cultural in our demeanor as a company. So we picked up our challenges, which were, we will use one project to get the next. So word of mouth became our pillar of sales. Similarly, some other companies will find out, a different route, maybe an investor route. They get an investment, and then how do you manage that investment? How do you reinvest it into the business and you grow it? But very, very clearly, every entrepreneur, I'll tell you one thing, needs to treat their company as an individual, needs to treat it as somebody who needs food, and that food comes through the money that you make going back into the company as well, right? So monetization for short term is not really going to establish a brand. For establishing a brand, like I said, you'll need sustenance, perseverance, but you'll need to believe in what you're doing and, feed your company equally as you're feeding yourself.
Right. So very important point I see here is about building the team. So when you're starting off, how do you, suggest that someone who is just starting off build their team? Like, is it जैसे अभी आपने starting में ही mention किया था कि you can't, start your business with your friends. But then what is the right way? How do you, build a team?
Well, number one, are you a solo entrepreneur or do you need a partner? Identify that. Don't just get a partner because you know somebody, right? I think that's a very, very, very important starting point. The minute you've ticked that one solution, identify a partner who complements you and who doesn't do the same things like you are, right? That's important because then you will have constructive debates. So you respect somebody, you share the work desk, you share your life and your vision with them, and you have these constructive discussions that can go back and forth. Following that comes a team. You begin hiring, you begin, recruiting the right kind of people. Easier said than done. Very, very, very easier said than done. But I come from a very ugly school of thought where I believe either you fit in or you fit out. So if you do not fit in, I'd rather end that relationship in 3 months rather than prolong it, right? There's a very ugly term called hire and fire, and you don't work with such companies. But I'm a very strong believer of the other side that rather than spoiling someone's career and investing their time in the wrong place, because I don't believe that an interview can tell you whether the person is right or wrong in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes even. I don't think a resume can still crack it for you. So when somebody brings a resume to me, we see it for the first 5 minutes to give him respect that they worked on it. We turn it upside down and we start talking to the individual, because that individual needs to have certain parameters that we look for. And I think the same is true in a lot of soft skill based organizations. We are a service based company. Of course, if it's a product based company, it's a hospitality based company, there are various other things that you need to analyze. So for those entrepreneurs, the route is different. But for us, the fitment is very, very important. So the minute you get complementing individuals, nothing that we do is rocket science, right? It is something that individuals can put their logic to and, move ahead. That is the pillar of our hiring, that kind of we've been working on for ever since we started. And that actually leads the way to the right kind of people working around you. And they buy into the vision that you set, right? The vision has to move with time. You can't set a vision 14 years back and say, you know what, this is it for the company. It has to change with time, right? There's a very beautiful story I had heard of one of the most successful businessmen in India. I'm not going to name the individual, but there was this very, very beautiful story I heard where the person said, you know what, this gentleman used to come in office in a board meeting, sit down and set this process on day one. But next week in the board meeting, change and talk completely opposite. He said, my surroundings changed, so my decisions changed. And that is the core of any entrepreneur being successful. And then your team rallying around you. The team needs to identify that if you're changing your vision, the way you are doing, or going back on what you felt on a certain thing, they still back you because they find logic in your submission. So to me, hiring is extremely important. Knowing what gaps you're filling is extremely important.
Right. And you also spoke about, the importance of word of mouth, and we see that you travel a lot. So, how important is it to, is there a relation between traveling and marketing or word of mouth? Or, is it relevant?
This podcast of yours actually goes to entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say something. You're never off your job. As an entrepreneur, you're putting yourself in a 24/7 job, right? The Saturdays, Sundays, also if spent with family, with friends, yes, can be a wonderful break, but you're observing things every time. So I look at travel as a great great educator. Every piece of international travel, every piece of experience, meeting interesting people. I will never sit on a flight and never talk to my neighbor. I'll always be, an extrovert and, kind of try to make friends and try and pick people's brains for certain things. And I find people who are inquisitive who pick my brains as well. So it's even more entertaining and more engaging if you can kind of contribute back. But travel lends great degree of education to any entrepreneur because you understand cultures, and even that is you going to Chennai. I'm a born brought up guy in Bombay, but today we create marketing platforms that go to Karnataka, that appeal to Kerala. I've done some large campaigns for brands for Onam. I didn't even know what Onam was initially. But when we started going to Kerala and we started seeing the culture, we understood why they were doing what they were doing. We learned the pillars and the life cycle of that culture, and that helped me kind of relate stories back to a brand, right? So we worked for an international brand which was into money remittances, and actually Kerala was their largest market, and we ensured the business was seen at the right places during that festive season. And we actually got great degree of ROI stories out of that, right? Now that was linked to because I got an opportunity for doing certain events in Kerala and had certain, I knew what kind of food they eat. I knew, what they drink, what their, when do they go to bed, so they're not a late night city. So you can't plan an event there that starts at 9:30 in the night. You understand that culture, you understand how the media behaves there. So whether it's domestic, whether it's international, right? You understand markets when you travel only if you're inquisitive. And I think that's the sole, sorry to say, wo kida hona chahiye in an entrepreneur to keep asking more, keep looking for more. Look at what, you travel in Bombay, you only see real estate hoardings because we are only about infrastructure development today, right? But you travel to a different market, you go to Dubai and you see, completely different kind of communications, though Dubai is also becoming real estate bound, but you'll see different communications in different countries. And that also is so much for you to take back.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. Now, coming back to the event space, when we talk about this trend of sustainability in events, so how is that space going around? Like for me, what I understand is that I go to some events that have a tag of that we are green in culture, we are sustainable in culture, and they have they have replaced their maybe cutleries with some green things. But what according to you, because you are, expert in this space, what according to you is, that one thing that makes the event sustainable, and where is the trend going right now in India?
Well, I will not call myself an expert, but I'll definitely call myself wanting to be one in one sense, right? We in fact started a new division of WOOT Factor, also called WOOT Lux, which is a department of ours, a division of ours that will purely focus on luxury experiences. There we offer, I wouldn't want to say 100%, but maximum sustainable solutions to every brand. Because every brand, global brand especially, is becoming extremely conscious about it. And it used to be a wonderful CSR initiative initially, but now it's a quantified initiative with majority of the international brands we are working on. We very closely work with one of the largest banking fraternities in the world, and we launched their premises in both Mumbai and in Bangalore last year around the same time. And the entire event was mandated to, even if we were using something, material that were non-sustainable, it had to still get recycled and repurposed, right? And we had to submit a report. So it kind of pushed us to the edge. From that year to this year, very recently in April, we kind of conducted this project called Godrej L'Affaire, which is a luxury lifestyle event in Mumbai. Which houses about 2,000 odd people, which has celebrities, which have influencers, the who's who of the business fraternity actually coming for an experience. And that's put together by the Godrej family. And we were privileged to kind of be chosen this year to not just design it, but even deliver it. Our theme for the entire year was all things goodness. And goodness meant, what are we giving back to the society? And sustainability was one of the strongest pillars. We walked off with 96.7% sustainable certification from an accredited organization, because every piece that we built was built with absolute recycled pellets of plastic. And then once these installations have been used, they've gone and they've been repurposed to today forming benches, which are going to be given back to the BMC to be put across various sites, right? Food was repurposed and realigned as well, right? Every piece of wastage was done. Power consumption was kind of looked at as well. So every nook and corner, every material used was kind of looked under the microscope. However, if you look at the trends, of course, I think, like I said, majority brands are moving towards that side. Events as an industry has identified it as a very, very core pillar where we are trying to look for solutions. But anything that starts new is expensive, right? Technology, when it starts new, is expensive. So today, few brands are being able to afford it. So they're kind of forming towards that side. We did a beautiful launch for the Adani Group as well, which was them taking over the Ambuja Cement and the ACC cement part. And that event was completely sustainably delivered by us as well. But we're getting these opportunities few. I just believe the coming 2 to 3 years, this is going to become more and more frequent. And event companies will need to lap up, will need to come up with solutions that are far more cost effective as well. You know, just changing a plastic bottle to a glass bottle doesn't help, right? I was having this wonderful interaction with Afroz, who's the United Nations brand ambassador from India, who's done fantastic work across our beaches in Mumbai. And he enlightened me where he said, किसने बोला कि प्लास्टिक यूज करना बुरी चीज है? प्लास्टिक यूज करने बंद करने कोई नहीं बोल रहा, वो प्लास्टिक को आप डिस्पोज किस तरह करते हो वो बुरी चीज, right? So we today need to educate even the common man about how you are disposing your plastics, how you are disposing these little uncle chips or Balaji, you know, those corners, and those are the problem statements. The problem actually lies there. The problem doesn't lie in manufacturing it. Right? So that was very enlightening. And we, in fact, you know, keep going back for validating what we are doing with experts like these to believe whether we are doing the right things or the wrong things. And it's a growing trend. There are some beautiful manufacturers out there who are doing 3D printing, and they are helping us with sustainable solutions. You know, bamboo is becoming, Indian artisans are really, really picking up in the country. So a lot of giveaways, merchandising has moved away from China and is actually using Indian artisans right now. India artwork is trending as well. So I feel it's a trend which has started, it's going to pick up. And I think the next 3 to 4 years will be a natural plug-in for every organization.
Right. No, I think a very important point here you mentioned was about the, cost. Sustainability today comes with a cost. And that is why I think it is not that much, of a, prevalent term, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, because even when we are having this conversation, we are ahead of World Environment Day as well, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, any thoughts on that? I mean, this year, World Environment Day, what should common person should pledge for? I think.
Well, I think this year World Environment Day will be tainted with some other news. So you have 4th June, the elections being announced. So the trends might be a little different. But however, I think not just on the World Environment Day, it's like, you know, you don't just celebrate women on Women's Day. You don't celebrate your mothers just on Mother's Day. But I would genuinely believe, I think we all need to become a little more conscious, right? We just need to dispose right. You know, you're having a Bisleri, just take the lid, put it back in, squash the glass and dispose it right. It's just as small changes like that will kind of help us in the longer run, right? So what I would probably urge is not just for the World Environment Day, but I would want people to become a little more conscious. You know, of course, societies, if you look at RWS, they've become so much, you know, the way they're disposing waste, it's wet waste and dry waste and all of that. So I think we need to look at the West. We need to look at countries like Singapore, who are way ahead of us with a lot of factors, and kind of bring that into our culture very, very naturally, right? We've all brought so many changes into our culture. I think Swachh Bharat was a fantastic campaign which educated people a lot. So you're seeing that having made an impact. More such campaigns are the need of the hour. And I would hope that would keep continuing. Brands, it's beautiful that from governance, it's actually gone down to the private sector. The private sector now believes that these pieces have to be a part of CSR. So we are moving on from, the regular initiatives, and sustainability has become a pillar for most of the brands now.
Right. So, closing the conversation, any final thoughts for the audiences, especially the entrepreneurs or those who are starting off their journey in entrepreneurship? Any final thoughts you would like to?
I think I'll probably summarize it by just saying, love what you do, right? If as an entrepreneur, you look for an escape from work, you're doing the wrong thing, right? I
Right.
don't know if I'm saying a controversial piece here, but I,
No,
I
I totally agree.
I always believe, like what you are doing today, right? You're following your passion.
Right.
So how can you get bored of your passion?
Yeah.
Right? It's just that for me. And I think as an entrepreneur, if you do that, it reflects, it kind of reflects on your team, it reflects on people who spend time around you. And I think find something that naturally comes to you, right? That is very, very important. Finally, I would, of course, probably leave this thought for an entrepreneur that, थ्री इडियट्स का जो डायलॉग था, chase perfection, पैसा अपने आप आएगा, right? And my wife hates me when I keep saying that, what, I didn't do this right, I could have done this better. And she's like, you're being too hard on yourself. Why do you want to be perfect? But I also remember my, tutors back in school, they always said, aim for the 80-90%, 70% pe to aa hi jaoge.
I know.
So the goals are that way, right? That an entrepreneur needs to keep that, keep pushing himself, keep loving what you are doing. And I definitely feel everyone, there's so much of blue ocean out there, right? Actually, there is so many opportunities out there. Like when I started an event company back in 2009, I was told there is an event company every 2 kilometers in Mumbai alone. But we found our niche, right? It's because about the stories we told. It's about because we were passionate about what we did. It's because we valued every relationship that comes our way. It doesn't matter to us if you're you're in your company, you're a senior executive or you're a vice president. I'm going to give you equal amount of respect, equal amount of love, because we love talking to people. We love entertaining you. When you're working with me, there is a certain reason why you've chosen to work with me. So we want to value that. And everybody is, life is one big happy family. One big. So let's just look at smiling together, and people will keep creating magic. I've actually interacted with these young kids who are 23, 25-year-old entrepreneurs. Fantastic solutions, fantastic products. There are girls who have got investments from the Tata Group, and they're recycling and they're making natural leather from some material. There's this girl who's making women innerwear very sustainable and that fantastically well, and she sits out of Dubai. And I really envy the talent that this country has. I would never leave this country. I want youngsters to stay here, innovate, do more. I think the governance is doing so much for a beautiful entrepreneurship, startup-led environment that we have. And the talent needs to stay back in this country. It's we are the next big story for the world.
No, completely. And I think what you said is the final word as well, that सक्सेस के पीछे मत भागो, अपने पैशन के पीछे भागो, परफेक्शन के पीछे भागो और कामयाबी झक मार के पीछे आएगी.
बिल्कुल. I believe in Baba Amir Khan.
Great. Thank you so much, Amit, for this wonderful conversation. And I think I learned a lot, and I believe that all the audiences would have a great time watching this podcast. And
Hope
thank you so much for being part of this conversation.
absolutely my pleasure, Anjali. Thank you so much, and all the best to you for anything and everything you do.
तो ये था हमारा आज का पहला पॉडकास्ट एंड देन इसके बाद भी हम बहुत सारे पॉडकास्ट के साथ आप लोगों के सामने आने वाले हैं बहुत जल्द एंड मैं बहुत 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 एक्साइटेड हूँ उसके लिए एंड आई वुड से सबसे पहले तो अगर आपको ये पॉडकास्ट ये कॉन्वर्जेशन ये लेसन्स ये सारा कॉन्वर्जेशन बहुत अच्छा लगा है एंड आई नो लगा होगा डेफिनेटली तो जाकर के नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में चेकआउट कर लो वूट फैक्टर को वूट फैक्टर एक इवेंट स्पेस कंपनी है check it out their social handles and you can always follow the founders and और यार हमें भी फॉलो करते रहो टुकविंग्स ब्लॉग को कहानियां कहते हैं कहानियां सुनते हैं ठीक है जी चलो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वाचिंग एंड we'll be back with a lot of more podcasts more interesting conversations और अगर आप एक ब्रांड हो तो do reach out to us it is I mean I am waiting to have those conversations यार चलो जी थैंक यू सो मच बाय बाय नमस्ते